We hunkered down during these months of staying at home. We chose to use our time wisely in my household and potty train our youngest child, Hannah. Admittedly, the potty training of our older children was usually accomplished by a weekend trip to the grandparents. They'd return at the end of the weekend wearing underwear, and we were very happy. This not being an option during a pandemic, we tried to conquer this challenge. And like any 3-year-old who tries and fails and is weary of change and tests the limits of truths and lies, our daughter would hide and squat in the corner of the room. And we look at her and ask her if she had to go to the bathroom. And as she was going to the bathroom, she would smile back and say, "No, I'm fine." That's what we expect from young children. They test the limits of telling the truth. They see what lies they can get away with, and then it's on us as adults, teachers, parents, caregivers, and society as a whole, to teach our children why the truth really matters. From big truths to the littlest of examples, like potty training. I remember gathering for basement birthday parties as an adolescent. The first without parents around, although adults would usually hover at the top of the steps about 30 feet away. We'd sit in a circle and take turns playing truth or dare, as if for the first time, without adult supervision, we were going to break all the rules. Personally, I always chose dare. Not because I'm overly adventurous and live on the wild side, far from it actually. But I always preferred dare over truth because truths were personal. Truth was real. And once you put it out there in the world, you couldn't take it back. We begin this evening with the Kol Nidre prayer. And when we said those prayers, we began with telling the truth. We began by admitting that we're going to break promises and make mistakes. On this day, when we're committed to telling the truth, we put the truth out there before God. We're honest with our mistakes and our past transgressions. We're honest with God and honest with ourselves because we understand the weight of that truth. Without truth, nothing matters. At an early age as children, we're taught about the importance of truth. After my daughter hid in the corner, I sat her down and said, "Never lie to me no matter what, about something serious or something silly." We learn the importance of telling the truth and understand that there are certain truths. The founding of our very nation is based on the idea that there are some truths that are very much fact and non-negotiable. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. But even that truth is not true all the time. The prophet Jeremiah declares that God is truth. And on commenting on the tractate Shabbat of the Babylonian Talmud, the medieval commentator Rashi mentions that when the Talmud says truth is the seal of God, it's a play on Hebrew. That the Hebrew word for truth, emet, consists of aleph, the first letter of the aleph bet, mem, the middle letter of the aleph bet, and tav, the very last letter of the aleph bet, suggesting that truth is full and all-encompassing. In our own liturgy, we declare that the fundamental truth is our relationship with God. We say, Adonai Elohechem emet. I am God, your God, the God of truth. And yet we connect these words in our liturgy to the liturgy that follows, Vemunah kol zot, that we believe in this affirmation. Our words of prayer juxtapose the concepts of truth and belief, suggesting that they are different. Yet what I believe to be true is true because of my beliefs. Belief is not based on fact. Belief is not based on evidence. Belief is what I feel in my heart, and no one can take that away from me. That is beautiful and powerful when it comes to theology. That I believe in a God and in a relationship with that God that no one can change or convince me otherwise. I believe in a mission to be God's partner in this world. No one can change that call to action. That's all well and good when we talk about theology. But what happens when we only define what we believe as true? What happens when there's no longer objective truth? 15 years ago, when comedian and late-night talk show host Stephen Colbert launched the Colbert Report, the satirical late-night show, he introduced the world to the word truthiness. He defined this word as a belief that a statement is true based on intuition, regardless of lack of or contrary evidence or logic. Truthiness was meant to be satire, but it has become reality. On the day after the 2017 inauguration, Kellyanne Conway, counselor to the president, was being interviewed on Meet the Press. When the interviewer pressed her about the administration preaching and promoting falsehoods, ones that could easily be fact-checked, she responded by saying that the administration was given alternative facts. This is the same president who, during his time in office and even prior on the campaign trail, declares that news that is critical of him is fake news. There's no such thing as objective journalism anymore, when anyone can declare that something they disagree with is a lie. There's no such thing as objective truth anymore. Our tradition teaches that disagreement is okay, it's healthy, in fact, it's preferred. Rabbinic tradition suggests that the image of a chavruta, the image of a learning pair, should be sparring partners. Sitting down at the table with someone you disagree with actually allows one to gain perspective and to see an issue in a light that they hadn't previously seen. But that requires still that there are some accepted rules that we follow, that requires there be some facts, that requires some objectivity. And that's not the world we're living in. Our tradition teaches that truth is one of the pillars that holds up this world. Well, we may be more familiar with Shimon HaTzadik's teaching that the world stands on the three pillars of Torah, Avodah, and Gemilut Chasadim. Mishnah also teaches the vision and wisdom of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, who taught that the world is dependent on justice, on peace, and yes, on truth. We cannot create a just world without truth. We cannot build a world of peace without truth. And without truth, our world falters. Society crumbles. Social media, that thing that I admit I am too obsessed with and on all too often, is responsible for spreading more false truths, or otherwise known as conspiracy theories, otherwise known as lies, than any platform that we use or access information. You see, I always chose Dare as a kid during those basement parties because I thought truth meant something. Truth was important. But today, in 2020, truth doesn't mean anything. We stand here today on this evening as we begin this Day of Atonement and expect to tell the truth. We're meant to tell the truth to God and to ourselves, to a God that is omniscient, all-knowing. But how can we tell the truth when we're living in a world where truth no longer exists? When we're living in a world that promotes lies, that celebrates liars? How can we do that hard work, that necessary work of telling the truth to God during this Day of Atonement, during this season of repentance, when everything around us suggests that the truth is meaningless? I believe that our goal during this high holiday season is not just to seek a renewed soul and a clean slate for ourselves, but really we're seeking a renewed world. And to do so, that begins by defining our truths. I was recently having a conversation, if that's what it can be called, with someone on Twitter, an account that others may refer to as a troll. Well, it was an argument of 280 characters at a time. I chose to treat it as a machloket l'shem shamayim, a disagreement for the sake of heaven. The anonymous account was critical of every statement I would make. As a rabbi challenging how I could believe Judaism supported certain issues, I finally concluded with a tweet that while we both might be Jews, it seemed as if we were practicing two totally different religions. And I think that is true. Because while the psalmist declares that Torah is truth, Torah is ultimately subjective. Torah is meant to be the core ethics, values, and lessons to live by, but it's subjective. If we believe that Torah is a living document to be interpreted and reinterpreted, turned and turned for everything that's in it, then what Torah teaches us is up to each of us. Even if Torah is truth, as the Psalms suggest, what our truths are ultimately up to each and every one of us. Truth ultimately only matters if we define our truths. Truth is only important if we declare what we stand for, who we are, our idea of what is right and what is wrong. For as long as we declare our truths, no lies from those with the loudest megaphones, no tweets of fake news in capital letters will deny our truth. You may have noticed driving around that our towns have some sort of obsession with lawn signs. Not just during election season, as we're currently in, but all the time. These signs that declare one's values printed on 15 by 20 pieces of plastic staked into the grass. Among the many signs I regularly see as I pass through my neighborhood, there's one that reads, "In this house, we believe Black Lives Matter. Women's rights are human rights. No human is illegal. Science is real. Love is love. Kindness is everything." It got me thinking about what truth really is. Truth is what we stand for. Truth is what defines us. So what truths are on your lawn sign? What values are you prepared to stake in your front lawn for the world to see? We're committed to sharing our truths with God on this holiest of days, but I want to invite all of us to declare our truths to each other. What are your truths? I begin this day of judgment, this day of atonement, standing before the Almighty, declaring some of mine. The truth is, I care about kindness. Kindness goes a long way in telling us who we are and who we strive to be. We are all flawed, but striving to be kind is an example of the better version of ourselves that we all constantly long for. It is true that we are all made in God's image. That means we are all holy. The way we treat each other is a reflection of how we treat God. Any law that suggests one is less than another, or any system created to suppress another, is at its core then a desecration of God. My truth is that the divine centers me. God is not omnipotent, and everything that happens is not God's will. But God is my partner, and I am God's. If we are to hold God accountable for some of the realities of this world, then ultimately we must also all the time hold ourselves accountable, for we are God's messengers. It is true that the way the world is today is not the way it will always be. Dream about tomorrow, a better reality, for we are all prophets. My truth tells me that we cannot create sacred space unless we create safe space for all. That our synagogues, that one day will be full again, our schools, that one day will be full of children, public spaces, and even especially now our homes must be safe, because safety is at the core of Kedusha, holiness. For me, it's true that family comes first. They are my everything, and I spend my life teaching them to care for others. For as Hillel famously said, if I'm not for myself, who will be for me? That's family coming first. But if I'm only for myself, what am I? It is true that creation is ongoing. Each and every day of creation, each and every day, creation is renewed. It's a chance to begin again, to hope again. It's a chance to change. Those are just some of my truths, what I stake into my front lawn and are prepared to declare to all who pass by. I want to invite you on this Yom Kippur to declare your truths. If we believe that the world truly rests on truth, if truth holds up this world, then you need to tell God, tell yourself, and tell the world what truth is and what truth defines your world. Well, still, ultimately, truth may be subjective. And maybe our world is too divided to have us all come to the table and agree on certain truths. But maybe we fail because we spend too much time calling out another's truths, trying to prove their falsehoods. Focus on your truth. At a time when lies are spewed and when objective truths are challenged, when evidence is ignored and facts are denied, no one can take away your truths. For emet is supported by emunah. Truth is guided by belief. And at this holiest of moments, on this holiest of nights, even and especially in a world which doubts certain truths, declare your truths. I'll never stop teaching my children to always tell the truth. I'll never stop calling them out when they lie, whether it's something silly like potty training or something serious. And I will always choose dare over truth because I understand the importance of declaring our truths to the world. It's not meant for an adolescent party basement game. It's a holy act. And at this holiest of moments, on this holiest of days, let us all act accordingly. Gemar Chatima Tova.